in Jeremiah 13, he speaks about, Moses speaks by direction of the Lord. He speaks about the problem of leprosy. And leprosy was a terrible thing, and even worse than this plague that we've got, but it was called a plague, and it was. But it was worse than what we're seeing today, and it was a terrible thing. People didn't usually get over it. There was stipulation of how to be cleansed from it, but that was done by the Lord. It wasn't done by any medication and stuff. But let me just read you here what it says in Leviticus 13, verse 38. He says, if a man also or a woman have in the skin of their flesh bright spots, even white bright spots, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots in the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckle spot that groweth in the skin, and he is clean. So he says it depends on the color of the spot, whether you can tell if it's leprosy or just a freckle or some other thing with the skin going on. But he says that if it's a darkish white, then that's just a freckle. But he says if it's a bright white, then that is leprosy. He says, then the priest shall look, and behold, if the bright spots of the skin of their flesh be darkish white, it is a freckle spot that groweth on the skin, he is clean. And the man whose hair is fallen off his head, he is bald, yet is he clean. All right, so even if this man that has this spot on his head, the hair comes out, then he still doesn't have leprosy. It's just a freckle spot on his head. And he says, and he that hath his hair fallen off from the part of his head toward his face, he is in his forehead bald, yet is he clean. He says, so, just because a person's hair comes out doesn't mean that he's got leprosy, but he's just gone bald like I have, as you can tell by looking on. And if there be in the bald head or bald forehead a white reddish sore, it is a leprosy sprung up in his bald head and his bald forehead. So he said if it's reddish and sore, then that is leprosy. Then the priest shall look upon it, and behold, if the rising, and we used to talk about risings a long time ago that we had as kids, and that's what the Bible calls it, a sore boil. He says, a rising of the sore be white reddish in his bald head or in his bald forehead, as the leprosy appeareth in the skin of the flesh. He is a leprous man. He is unclean. The priest shall pronounce him utterly unclean. His plague is in his head, and the leper in whom the plague is, his clothes shall be rent and his head bare, and he shall put a covering upon his upper lip, and shall cry, unclean, unclean. And all the days wherein the plague shall be in him, he shall be defiled. He is unclean. He shall dwell alone. Without the camp shall his habitation be. So we have scientists today that have told us that we are to wear a mask, and we are to social distance, and we are to separate ourselves from people in a sense, not to be around anybody, that even if we don't think they have leprosy, but we're to social distance ourselves. But if we know they have leprosy, then they are to be quarantined, and we're not to be around them at all. And there's a place in the Bible, I don't remember where it is, it says there when they're walking down the city of the wherever they may be there, that they're to walk on the other side of the street than other people and cry, unclean, unclean. So, this wearing of a mask and social distancing ourselves is scientific wisdom, but I'm sure that if all the scientists who have come to this conclusion, if they'd have looked here and read in the Bible, which I doubt many of them did, they would have known what to do out of God's Word. And God knows what's right and what's best, and He knows the reason for this. It's a matter of germs, bacteria, airborne, the reason we need to do these things. And, there was a time that we didn't know anything about bacteria and germs, but way back in several hundred years ago, a few hundred years ago, Louis Pasteur, a French scientist, and others of his colleagues, they began to investigate and ponder the possibility of being microorganisms that was causing people to get sick and have plagues like the typhus fever, and they began to research and ponder these things, and they came up with a microscope, and then they could see these little microscopic things that couldn't be seen with the eye that was in things that was causing people to get sick, whether it be food or water or milk or whatever. And of course, we know that Louis Pasteur, is the one that come up with the theory or the practice of pasteurizing milk. And when milk is pasteurized, it is brought to a temperature and held there long enough that it kills any of these bacteria and microorganisms in the milk that might cause people to be sick. But he was the father of this because he was the first one to begin to study about microorganisms, and he was the first one to come up with a vaccine against diseases caused by microorganisms. He and his colleagues, when the typhus fever was rampant and killing many people in that area where they lived over in Paris, near Paris,